It is no secret that I've made a couple of videos now on how to create your content plan. Basically laying out a concrete written plan where everything seems feasible, realistic, and appealing. That will keep you from falling into delusional habits and routines. But here's the thing, every single time I make those plans, the number one step is always pick a niche and then we move on. We're like, oh, you picked a niche? Okay, so now let's do this and that. A lot of people are in a specific niche or feel like they are part of a specific niche, but they didn't choose it. They just fell into it. So basically my current goal is to take every single step from those content plans and to elaborate on them. Starting with step number 1, how to pick a niche. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing today, right after a message from our sponsor. Owned gives you pretty much everything you need, especially as a live streamer. They'll have alerts, they'll have overlays, camera overlays, everything you really need in order to have a really professionally made setup for both your live stream and also your YouTube. One of the biggest things that they do that I don't see a lot of people doing is basically allowing you to create your own emotes, and you don't create them one by one. You basically create one character that kind of looks like you, and then it generates the rest automatically, gives you like 50 different emotes that you can choose from. And if you already have emotes and you don't know how to animate them, they have an emote animator. That is if you don't want to get their pre-animated emotes, basically. So everything you absolutely need, you can find over at own.gg/GuileLevel. That's my special little link from them, own.gg/GuileLevel. Okay, so the disclaimer here is that we are creating a content plan in order for it to work, of course. In order to do that, we need to think about our personal involvement and how much of it will contribute to the success. Of course, we do want to do things that we enjoy or that we're at least kind of passionate about. But at the same time, we don't want to make it 100% about us. This is not going to be our cute little artsy-fartsy project. It's going to be a concrete plan that needs to work and to make sense. I am personally of the opinion that any niche can be sold if formatted properly. But in order to almost guarantee success, we have to use proven methods. Okay, that was kind of vague. Let me give you an actual example. Vlogs, for example. We all know that one friend that wants to start a YouTube channel and the first thing they think of is vlogs because they think, well, I'm just gonna document my life. And most of the time they come up with this plan because it sounds easy. It is not easy to document your life and also make it entertaining. Building a successful vlog channel is a billion times harder than creating a channel that just lists top 10 fun facts. How can I make this assessment? You totally stopped and watched a video that started with, "Did you know?" and then you watched the whole thing. When was the last time you watched a random vlog from a random small channel? Anyways, let's begin. All right, the easiest way to start is to ask yourself, what is a subject that you cannot shut up about? Let's say, I love using this example. Let's say you go to a party and then you meet like a stranger, basically, right? What would be something that they tell you that they're into, that you're also into, that would make you speak to this person for the rest of the night about this specific thing? And yes, it can be multiple things. For me, for example, horror movies, for example, 3D printing, YouTube, meme, internet history, international music from the standpoint of a musician or a producer, DIY filmmaking, DIY tech, and home automation. Anyways, so that's the question. Here we're gonna put the subject, and then within that subject, we're gonna find a subgenre in case we want to niche down. Then we're gonna find what I call heavy hitters. Those are videos in the niche or the subgenre that seems to get a ton of views. Like those are the videos that are at the top. Those are the most watched videos basically. And I'm gonna show you how to find them. And then finally, we're gonna find filler content. This is not necessarily something you can easily find. This is content that you're gonna create when you want to quickly make something and post it. Basically, those are videos that are not necessarily guaranteed to get a ton of views, that are not necessarily proven, but they are quick and easy to make so that you can put out content if you're in a rut. Filler content is particularly useful because if you only plan heavy hitters, you're gonna kind of fall into the perfectionist trap because you know those videos are more likely to get more views, so you want them to be really good. And just because of that, I've seen people procrastinate or just delay projects because they're like, it's not good enough yet. I know it's gonna do well and I really want it to be as good as possible. But in the meantime, their channel is sitting there dry. Filler content allows you to be lazy while staying consistent. All right, so subject. This is the difficult part for me because everyone has a different niche. Everyone has different interests. So for me to make a video that caters to everyone, this should cater to everyone, but you know, someone in the comments is gonna be like, well, can you do one on this specific niche? That's your job, content creator. But hey, most of my audience are live streamers, so you guys play video games on Twitch. So I'm gonna put video games. Here I could put movies, TV series, but we can already niche down with something that is quite popular, which would be Netflix. And lastly, just because I've already done some research on this one, cooking, video games, subgenres. Not necessarily subgenres for video games, although that can be a thing, but basically niche within video games. So normal video game subgenre would be things like indie games, AAA games, VR games, single player games. So those are normal video game categories. If we're talking about niche, we can talk about Steam games only. Free games. I'm gonna stop writing games. We can talk about PC games. We can talk about good reviews versus bad reviews. And we can talk about multiplayer games. Technically, you would want to write anything that comes to mind. I'm just running out of space here. And now you're at the stage where you need to do a little bit of competitive research. You need to pick one of those or a couple of those, or do the research on all of those if you want to. And you need to find out which videos on this genre are the most watched. You can also match genres with characteristics. Like indie games, you could do free indie games or free AAA games, free PC games, free Steam games. The Epic Store, for example, every week they give you 2 free games, I think. That could be your thing. You just review those 2 games every week. There's a large amount of people that use the Epic Store and actually download those games. However, I'm sure that most people don't actually play them every single week, so it might be really, really informative to know, are they good or not? Same thing with VR games. I know that a lot of kids have the Quest 2, so they have a headset, controllers, but they don't have access to money. So they're always asking people, is this game free? So making content just on free Quest games is something that makes sense, but also kind of guaranteed that you get a lot of views. Kind of. Anyways, let's do that research. You want to open YouTube in an incognito tab so that your previous search doesn't affect it. You want to set the country to your target audience. I'm going to put United States. I'm also going to put the language to English, although Google absolutely knows that I'm in French, so it's still going to show me French stuff. Anyways, if I type indie games, let's see what comes up. So here we have best indie games. Seems to be like at the top of the search, 144,000 subs. Okay, so there's a couple of lists. So top 50 indie games, 11 awesome upcoming indie games of the week. And then we have this one, which is The Mother of Sorrow. It has 24,000 views in one day. So if you want to make game specific content, this one is hot, as we say. The Indie Gamer, top 15, cool. 5 indie games you will play. And now we have more essay-like content. I'm guessing how indie games revolutionize storytelling. So that's also, because it's not always lists. The first thing you're going to find is lists because people just consume that mindlessly. But it's also good to find other types of content about a specific genre. New horror indie game. So horror came up twice already, but it seems like people are looking for horror indie games. Indie horror games, Slander, top 50 indie games. So what we can do now is basically write down, hey, the heavy hitters or top lists and new indie horror games, basically. Oh yeah, Need for Speed, very indie. The state of indie horror games, recommending 50 indie horror games. Of course, you would actually do more research than that, but we're gonna start writing down some stuff. Another thing you want to do, the channels that seem the most relevant to that specific niche, you want to actually do a little bit of competitive research and go click on them and find their most popular videos and see if you can notice a pattern. Of course, this channel seems to just do lists, so it's gonna be a lot of lists, but maybe you can learn something from here. For example, immediately I see a type of series that are like best games that are like a popular game. Best games like Diablo, best games like Diablo. How do you pronounce that? Best rhythm games, those are lists but based on genres. So per genre or like another game. You also want to look at their oldest videos to see how they started. And it's usually pretty good insight because you'll notice what mistakes they made when they were starting out. So best indie games without having a list or a number got 1.4K views in 7 years. Best indie games. So there was a format here that seemed to not click necessarily, but also when you're starting out, the algorithm doesn't know you exist. So that could also be it. Could be the thumbnail, could be just not clickbaity enough, but you can compare that to the most recent videos. Thumbnails are way more flashy. There's usually a character, more colors. There's always a number of recommendations. And basically you just learn in 5 minutes what this person learned in 7 years of being a YouTuber. This channel, for example, seems to be focused more on horror games, or at least that's the most popular videos on their channel. Those are long videos. There's 2 hours, so that's just gameplay walkthrough, I'm guessing, of indie horror games. That's cool that that worked for them, but this is not necessarily a strategy that I would go with because it seems risky. It seems so risky. I would say that's something that involves a lot of luck in order to take off. And as we can see, they started YouTube 12 years ago. Oh, that was back then when you couldn't upload more than 10 minutes. They were publishing like whatever genre. Mirror's Edge is definitely not a indie horror game. And then The Grudge started taking off. Max Payne did okay, but immediately you can see that the horror games just blow up. So I understand why they stuck to that one niche eventually. Another thing that's good to look at is the frequency of uploading. 15 hours ago, 1 day ago, 5 days ago, 6 days ago, 8 days ago, 10 days ago, 11 days ago. So in 2 weeks, they posted 10 videos, 10 long videos. So of course we need to write down. Again, this channel is very particular, so it's not something that I would really base a strategy on, because as you can see, the time it took to get to that point, but we can still write it down. Okay, another part of competitive, this is not a video about competitive research, but we need it in order to really pick what seems the most appealing that we want to do, that we can do, and that we're not going to give up in the first week. So I will be making a video on how to properly do competitive research, but this is a good start. All right, now we need to find out what the filler is. And the thing is, while we're doing our competitive research, we may not see what the filler is because some people don't have fillers, or it's just hard to figure it out. Filler is something more personal. It's something that you need to do quickly. You can record, edit, post really fast, so it always has to do just with you. I would say that a pretty easy content to make if you're making a video about like indie games would be news. You find out what's the one hot new indie game that has a trailer out, and you make a video about it. You find out all the information, you just write them down, and then you just present them. Kind of like indie gaming news, if you will, but for one game. So single game news for an upcoming anticipated game. I give you the idea for the Epic Store. Test review Epic Store Game of the Week, or Games of the Week, really. You don't have to necessarily test it. You can just present it, watch the trailer, find all the information you have about it, and just present it. Hey, here's the game that's on the Epic Store, and this is what it's about, and what happens, and blah, 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 what type of game it is, without necessarily playing it. Of course, don't lie. And if you do want to play it, it could be a series where you're like, okay, I tried that game for 3 hours or 1 hour. I tried 1 hour of the new free Epic Game Store games. All right, this is such a like fast abbreviated way of doing it, but yeah, technically whatever is your specific interest, you would have to do a different research for. VR games, for example, for AAA games could be different, and you will find more interesting, more creative stuff. The top list is something you're gonna find all the time. It is what works the best. You have to you can establish yourself basically as a channel that gives information about something, or if there's something very specific about certain games that you really personally enjoy, you can make a channel just about that. VR games, for example, there are channels that are only about weapon handling. Like, how is weapon handling in this game versus that game versus that game, and that's it. That's the whole channel, and people love it. Single player games, it can be about mechanics, it can be about story. You could have a channel that just talks about music in video games if you're a musician that happens to play video games or things like that, or you think you can give good reviews. Anyways, I picked video games as the main subject here, but you can quickly see how this type of research would probably apply to Netflix. Of course, you need to actually do the research. You need to see for your eyes that people are watching that content. Don't just imagine that, I don't know, people are watching top 5 best horror movies on Netflix right now. Even though that's a good guess, probably a ton of people are watching this, but do the research, okay? Don't just imagine stuff, actually do the research. I'm gonna make the competitive research video, and you're gonna see that it's more than just titles and what type of content. It's also thumbnails, it's also the general aesthetic, it's also the presentation, the way people speak, intro, no intro. Those are all things that you need to write down and basically figure out the audience through the content that they seem to enjoy the most.
2,000 years later.
I went ahead and did the same thing. I went ahead and did the same thing for Netflix and cooking, and I gotta say Netflix was super difficult because there's like, they have their own channels and they basically populate the whole website. So basically it was difficult to find creative content outside of Netflix own channels. But from what I could see, the popular things were their YouTube channel, of course, a lot of Korean content. Anime on Netflix seems to be quite popular. Indian content, of course. The most popular by far is gonna be like Netflix for Kids, I think it's called, like children's stuff, both Indian and also American For kids, that's the most popular. Like the most views, like 800 million views, that's those videos, okay? But we're not taking them into account. There's a lot of Netflix fear mongering that seems to get a lot of views. Every single week, someone is like, Netflix is failing, Netflix is losing money, oh, Netflix is about to shut down, right? Trailers, of course, get a lot of views. Netflix settings, hacks, and troubleshooting, that works, I guess. Of course, list, best, but it's mostly like best genre. It's not necessarily the best movie on Netflix. It's like, oh, the top 10 best horror movies on Netflix, the top 10 best war movies on Netflix, and things like that. There's also something called Netflix Quiz. I haven't watched the content myself, but it seems to be like up there with Netflix own content, so it must be like super popular somehow. I don't know what it is, but look it up. Netflix Quiz, reviewing popular shows, that's a given, of course. And then the heavy hitters, we will have best genre list, again, best war movies, best horror movies, best drama, I don't know. Not just movies, I say movies, but movies and series all the time, right? Horror seems to be the top though. New anticipated movies, if you give information about it and things like that, that seemed to work. For example, there's a new one with Benedict Cumberbatch. I have no idea what's this movie about, but if you were to make a video about it, maybe it will get a lot of views. Movie recaps, especially, you probably saw those with kind of clickbait titles. Instead of telling you this is this movie and that's the recap, it tells you the premise of the movie in the title. I saw one earlier that said, God came back, but no one expected for him to look like that. Like I saw that, it's stuck in my head. And of course, negative reviews seem to be all the rage. People love like watching the worst movies on Netflix, for example. Like negative reviews seems to get a ton of views. And then for filler content, I put quick movie recommendations. Here's a movie recommendation if you like blah blah blah. Tier list characters from a TV show. In that case, it has to be a TV show that you actually watch, and you can just make a tier list of. It's kind of personal, but it's easy to make. Trailer reactions, of course, but I did put transformative. Make sure that it is transformative, that you have something to add, that you have a little bit of knowledge that maybe not everyone has that you can add to it. Don't just sit and watch the full trailer like I do on my movie channel. But anyways, every time you do reaction, try to be a little bit knowledgeable about the subject so that you can provide extra information or present it in a way that is like cut down and edited, heavily edited enough for it to be transformative. Okay, for cooking, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't do the research again because we did it in my live stream while we were preparing a plan. So I did this mostly by memory. Take this with a grain of salt, do your own research. But for cooking, usually the subgenres are going to be recipes, of course, reviews, and we're gonna go into that more. Testing, basically testing recipes. Like I saw this recipe on, I tried this recipe from this popular content creator, or I tried this recipe that I saw on TV. But there's also tasting, where, oh, I'm trying out Japanese candy is a big one. People love that stuff. Unusual food. I remember we checked out one channel where all they were doing is tasting different foods from different places. And of course, the weirdest the food were, the more views they would get. And in my opinion, the most popular is the As Seen In. I believe we watched, like on my channel, we did it for hours. We watched like the most popular cooking channels on YouTube, and their most popular videos were always like, I think Binging with Babish, one of his most popular videos is like making candy that looks like the meth from Breaking Bad. And this guy is like an amazing cook. There's so much amazing information on his channel, but yeah, one of the most viewed is gonna be, oh, making just candy that's blue, you know? So yeah, the reviews could be restaurant food reviews or just like junk food reviews, fast food reviews, I should say. Vlogging, I put vlogging. I know I talk bad about vlogging, but in this case, it would be like niche vlogging. Like I'm trying out every restaurant in this city, or I'm trying restaurants in different cities, but you're basically it's kind of like a review of restaurants, but it's vlogging and it's just positive the whole time. Probably. Geo-based, again, the best restaurants to eat at in Paris. You can mix it with the reviews and the vlogging. It's like, I try multiple restaurants in Paris and this is what they look like and things like that. Okay, the As Seen In movies, it can also be anime, recreating stuff that you saw in anime or in movies or in TV. Basically mixing and sprinkling in that thing that is already popular and put it in my own genre. You can mix those three things together if you want to. Trying recipes you saw in video games, for example, or on Netflix TV shows. Okay, so the heavy hitters are going to be how to make the best and basically best recipes. Like, it's just recipes, but like it's presented in a clickbait way. Testing food, candy, meat, or vegan, like specific food basically. And it can be from, again, TV shows and blah, blah, blah. We made the blah, blah, blah from this TV show. Fast food review, I said that already. Restaurants in cities, and weird food. Those are the heavy hitters. For filler content, there shouldn't be any filler content. Every content should be filler content, as in you should have a workflow that allows you to make content fast all the time. But anyways, mini tutorials like, hey, how to make the best egg. You basically find a very simple recipe so that you know you can make a video in one day and it's going to be relatively easy and fast. Testing a recipe, again, a recipe for eggs, maybe how to make popcorn, something that you can make like quick and simple. Tasting one single product, one single candy from Japan, or one single weird food, one single cricket, I don't know. And then reacting to bad cooking videos. I know that like Troom Troom or whatever, one of those content farms make a lot of those. And again, I put input, as in you need to have something to say. Hopefully, if you want to make a cooking channel, you know what a thing or two about cooking, so that when you're watching those bad videos, you can be like, this is bad because blah blah blah, this doesn't work like that, this wouldn't work, or this would work, I need to try this, and blah blah blah. So you seem knowledgeable a little bit. But yeah, this is how you this is how you pick a niche, by doing partial competitive research basically. And then out of all of the things that you found throughout all of the different interests that you have, you can do the perfect combination and pick and choose the exact one you feel the most excited about. But keep in mind that if one thing that you choose doesn't work, you can always switch up. When you're starting out, it's okay for you to do a bunch of different types of content. Don't go too wild, you know, don't do video game reviews and then there's a cooking recipe, but you can still try multiple things. Okay, one last thing to say is that this is just one strategy in order to pick a niche. The goal here is simply to give you a vague idea, to do a brainstorming session of what content is out there, plus what content you can come up with. So everything I put in the list is what is out there, but you need to come up with stuff also. You know, it's not just, oh, you can only do this and that's it. No, we're picking a niche here. We're not actually establishing our content, because if we were, we would be way more creative. We would come up with kind of new ideas that we can sprinkle proven methods into. That's why during this, it might seem kind of repetitive, as in we're gonna see list, top this, top 10 list of this, top 10 list of that. Of course, this is gonna be the most viewed that we're gonna see, but it's not just that simple. Anyways, if this video does well, I will be making a video on proper competitive research to actually establish what type of content you wanna make using those proven methods. Whew, that was a lot. I am still raising money for my friend Dalo to buy a laser cutter. There will be a link in the comments, actually, the pinned comment. I would really appreciate if you can contribute a little bit. You can give as little as $5. And if this video was helpful in any way, let me know in the comment section below. I will see you all next time. Go out there, make me proud, get level, out.